Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this edition of SBB Live. I am your host and the publisher of Seniors Blue Book, Amanda Barton. Excited today to bring on some long-standing partners that we have with us over at Ferrari, Butler, and Moneymaker, Miss Sierra Butler herself. How are you this morning, Sierra?
I am great. Yes, I am the butler in the middle of that Ferrari and Moneymaker.
Yes, I love the slogan. It's awesome. So that dynamic team over there in Sarasota, you guys are doing some great things. The purpose of today is to get to know the attorneys behind the printed ad. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you into the field of elder law.
So, sure. So, Sierra Butler, and I actually got started in elder law not as my first area of practice as an attorney. I practiced family law in Boston for about 6 years, and I'm from Florida. So when I was sufficiently cold and tired of dealing with New England, I decided to come back to Florida. And I kind of fell into elder law. I started working for an attorney that did a lot of guardianship work. So that was the first kind of area of elder law that I learned. But then I quickly realized there was definitely more areas where I felt like I had a skill set that could be of service to people. So I learned how to do Medicaid planning. I learned how to do estate planning and, some probate. So that way, I kind of felt a little bit more well-rounded. And so that's kind of how I, fell into it. And in 2016, I decided that it was time to kind of go out. I was going to go out on my own. And John Ferrari, who's my partner now, said, we could have this partnership. And I said, well, are you sure? Because I am about to have a baby and I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And he's like, yeah, let's just do this. So I'm really glad that we did. And so luckily, and then Liz Moneymaker joined us. So for us, it's nice having partners where we all do elder law. So we all do that same area of practice. And I'm mostly in Manatee and Sarasota counties. And I just, I have a great staff here. So within my little team here, I've got another attorney that works for me, and I've got a paralegal, and I have an assistant, and we have somebody else that pops in that helps out. So that's kind of our team in our physical office. We're in Lakewood Ranch.
Yeah, that is awesome. I'm glad to hear that you found your perfect match. That's awesome. Having that work synergy is great. Now, I know education is something that you are super passionate about, as am I. So I want to ask you some questions about when you're getting ready to hire an attorney. There are some questions that you have supplied that you ask your everyone in the world to ask their attorney. So I guess the first question is a lawyer really necessary?
Yeah, and the reason I say that is because, I do get a lot of calls into my firm, and my assistant is answering those calls. And we're actually trying to figure out, like, if this might be a type of problem that doesn't require a lawyer to actually answer the question. And so the perfect example I have of that is sometimes people will call and they'll say, hey, I'm having some issues. I need to find a good placement for, my parent. That's not really, something that you need to pay a lawyer to help you answer. While I might have some resources, that would be a perfect example of, a reason why you don't necessarily need a lawyer, and you need either a good case manager or a finder, to help with that situation. So we can give referrals to that. So that's what I mean by, is it really a lawyer you need, or is it some other kind of professional, like a financial advisor even. So people ask me, well, how should I have my assets? I'm like, well, that's really, unless we're doing a strong Medicaid plan where we're trying to figure things out, really a financial advisor would be the best person to answer that, not me.
No, that's perfect. And I think a lot of people really don't know where to start. So, and that's awesome. Now, another question I would ask is that, like, where would you go to get a good referral for an attorney? And also, what kind of questions should you be asking an attorney before you hire them?
First of all, if there's any way that you can get, obviously, word of mouth referrals, those are good. People in the industry. So there's lots of organizations, like Seniors Blue Book, you're partnering with people all the time that have a vested interest in making sure that, people in the community get to the right kind of people. But one of the things that I tell people, and even when people ask me about elder law attorneys in a different geographic area, I always direct them to the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. They have a website where you can find a lawyer. So you can at least get a few good names, then you can, call them and ask them some questions. But there are quite a few questions that I think are really important to know, but it really, I think, boils down to, does this person have the specific experience to help with the specific problem or issue that I need addressing? So it could be, okay, well, yeah, you probably maybe want somebody with some experience if it's it's a more difficult question. But if it's an issue of doing, an advanced directive like a power of attorney, is this something they're constantly doing, or is it something kind of that they do on the side for their other law practice? If it's a guardianship matter, how many guardianships has this attorney, handled? How many Medicaid applications have you filed? And then you also want to know, how does this particular practice work? So, are you going to be talking with the attorney or maybe the paralegal? Is there a staff? Like, how really are you, what is this relationship really going to look like? And then, of course, like, you always want to know, okay, well, how does payment work? Is this a free consultation, or is this going to be, a paid consultation? Do you charge by the hour? How long does it take to have phone calls back? So those are just, some off the bat questions that you should be asking.
No, that's perfect. And I would say, there's sometimes you think you found the perfect match, but do you feel like you should interview several attorneys, and how many should you be interviewing, and how do you prepare for that initial consultation?
So great question. So I always, as a rule of thumb, I feel like you at least need to try to talk with 3 attorneys. Sometimes you might narrow it down and just do 2, but I would definitely say 2 to 3 attorneys you should at least try to talk to and interview. And finding the right fit is incredibly important. It could be not every, like, I am not the perfect match for every person. I have a certain style. I'm very conciliatory until then if we have to go to court, fine, then we have to go to court. But some people may say, no, I want to start right here. And if we talk about that initially, I'll say, actually, why don't you try this lawyer? Because I think they'd be a better fit for kind of what you're looking for in that situation. So you definitely, and I think in an elder law situation, a lot of times I'm dealing with not only an elder, but their family members. And so sometimes that requires patience. That some attorneys just don't, that's not necessarily their forte. They're really, I want to get in and get out and do documents and be done. So you kind of want to feel that out and see, okay, well, is this a good fit? I tend to be better, with that patience factor. Than other attorneys, but some people may be like, no, I want somebody, a little bit different. And so I'm like, well, maybe you should go here because they're more like this, and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that, I think, but definitely 2 or 3 people to interview.
Yeah, you're definitely in the right field then, because you're right. When you're dealing with seniors and family members of seniors, it's a critical time for them, and you definitely need that extra layer of patience. Now, when you're getting ready for that initial consultation, I'm sure there's a checklist of things. Talk to us about, what we need to do to prepare for that initial consultation as an elder or a family member of an elder.
So I have this kind of view that you're going to have the most productive consultation if the attorney has the most information to kind of help you out, which is a little bit strange because when people are calling my office initially, I'm telling them, wait a minute, don't give me anything but names because I need to run a conflict check. But then by the time I have you at the consultation, I'm asking you to fill out an intake form because I want to know the information. If this is if we're trying to do a Medicaid plan, well, then I really need to know everything about assets, how they're titled, what their value is, what the income is, what the insurance situation is. And if there's, if the example of someone having, an issue trying to work through with their parents, well, then I want a timeline of what's going on because that really gives me a sense. I can, read And then we can have a productive conversation. So I can say, okay, well, I see what happened is they moved into an assisted living and now it's not working out because there's some paranoia issues and now they're needing 24/7 care. And there's, the facility is saying you need to move them, but you don't have a power of attorney. Then I've got a sense for kind of what's going on. And that really helps me and you have a productive consultation just by having that basic information, done and prepared and provided to me in advance.
Yeah, and I know that that's really critical that you have all that stuff ready to go. If not even beforehand, I'm sure that you would appreciate even having it before the consultation, so you kind of have an idea of what you're walking into. But what type of questions as a consumer should we be asking at that initial consultation to make sure it's a good fit?
So, and it's about disconnection. So you want to be able to know, like, can this attorney solve my problem? And what are the steps that they're going to take to do that? So if an estate planning person comes and says, so I'm concerned that I want to make sure that if something happens to me, I have, the people that I want are able to do what they need to do. So, an attorney should then be able to tell you, well, if you were to become incapacitated, there are certain advanced directives that you need in the state of Florida. And, to manage your assets, you could be looking at wills, trusts, and a combination of perhaps a deed and beneficiary designations. And so depending on the type of case, you want them to kind of outline for you what are the steps. Now, we can't always predict, for example, if it's more of a litigation type case of, well, I don't know how the other side's going to react if we send them a letter that this is what we need to be doing, or if we, file for, a guardianship. But we can at least say, well, what do you think this is going to cost me? And you can say, well, okay, well, I think typically in these situations, if it's uncontested, this will run, X amount of dollars. So really just, making sure that you talk about those things and having all the names to make sure we don't have a conflict. In the elder law world, conflicts, because usually when there's a crisis going on with someone, that's when the lawyer gets called in, unfortunately. And so there's been lots of people worried about an elder, have different views that have called around. So you want to make sure that we're just giving names and doing this conflict check first and making sure, that there's, no issues with that attorney representing you going forward in that action. So you just really want to know, like, who's going to be handling the case. Is there a primary attorney or is an associate there's going to be working on the attorney on the matter, and just kind of how does your office work through things? And those are questions that you just want to make sure that you ask and have answered so you feel comfortable proceeding.
No, that's fantastic. It really is important to know what you're going in and what the expectations are. And it's such a complex world when you're dealing with, seniors in general. But what I do know is that all of us would say it's best to be proactive versus reactive, and that you're going to spend a lot less money working with an attorney if you're proactive with your legal documents and your wishes are clearly stated. So with that in mind, everyone out there watching today, if you have not done your estate paperwork, make sure you go see Miss Sierra Butler, because it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, these are documents that you need to have in place regardless. So thank you so much for your partnership with Seniors Blue Book. We value the education that you bring and just appreciate you guys so much. And thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.